Breaking global shockwave. Ukraine stuns Washington, Kyiv stands firm in Geneva, and Trump is forced to bend. World leaders are now lining up behind Ukraine, not behind Trump's secret deal. Trump's so-called peace plan, crafted with Russia behind Ukraine's back, is collapsing under pressure. And now Zelensky is rushing into high-stakes talks next week that could flip the whole game upside down. Secret Trump-Russia deal exposed. Ukraine refuses to be sold. The West takes Kyiv's side. This is Ukraine Today. I'm Zorislava Kolesnikova. Stay with us because what's coming next will rewrite the entire map of this war. Ukraine shocks Washington, Kyiv stands firm in Geneva, and Trump is forced to bend. A dramatic turn at the Geneva peace talks. Ukraine has held its ground so firmly that even the US delegation and President Donald Trump himself were pushed to adjust their stance. Ukraine just forced the world's biggest power to shift. On 23 November, delegations from Ukraine, the US and key European powers met in Switzerland to work on the updated 28-point peace plan of ending the war. Following hours of negotiations, Washington and Kyiv issued a joint statement, and the message stunned observers. Any future deal must fully respect Ukraine's sovereignty. No compromises that weaken the state. Only a strong and just peace is acceptable. Trump forced to react. Kyiv set the stone. President Trump tried to play optimist, but his statement betrayed surprise.
Is it really possible that significant progress is being made in the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine? Don't believe it until you see it for yourself. But something good may be happening. God bless America.
Behind this soft tone is one clear fact. The Ukrainian delegation held the line so strongly that US negotiators had to update the peace framework around Kyiv's red lines. Even Secretary of State Marco Rubio admitted it.
We spoke with US President Donald Trump. I think he is quite pleased with the reports we have provided him on the progress made.
And he stressed that Trump was quite satisfied with the report, a diplomatic way of saying Ukraine got what it wanted. President Zelensky said the Ukrainian team is returning home and will deliver a full report tonight.
We will determine next steps and timelines. We expect the needed results. I'm grateful to everyone standing with Ukraine.
He added that Kyiv will keep coordinating closely with Europe and global partners, clearly signaling Ukraine is not letting the US lead the process alone. During his speech at the Crimea Platform Parliamentary Summit, Zelensky openly warned,
Putin wants legal recognition of what he stole. This is the biggest threat to the world.
He stressed that Ukraine will seek only those compromises that strengthen the country, not weaken it, a direct message to add negotiating partners, including the US. The US isn't shaping Ukraine's peace terms, Ukraine is shaping America's. Trump's peace plan can work, but only if Ukraine agrees. World leaders now line up behind Kyiv. Turkey's President Erdogan has made a powerful and unexpected comment about Donald Trump's peace plan for ending the war in Ukraine. The plan will work only if it matches Ukraine's needs and security. Speaking to Clash Report, Erdogan said,
Is it possible to agree on this plan? Yes, it is possible. The real question is how, and this must be solved.
Erdogan stressed that the peace deal must meet the legal expectations and security needs of both sides, but he warned that it cannot create new risk or new instability.
If a framework is created that satisfies all sides, it can open the way to a long-term solution.
Erdogan and Russian dictator Vladimir Putin held a phone call to discuss ways to end the war in Ukraine. The information was released by both Ankara and the Kremlin. According to Moscow, Erdogan said he is ready to give full support to any negotiation process and again offer the Istanbul platform for possible talks. The Turkish side highlighted something else. Ankara stated that Turkey will
We continue its efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war through a fair and lasting peace.
Erdogan also confirmed that Turkey is ready, just like before, to support any diplomatic steps or plans that could help start direct contact between the sides and the open way to a long-term peace. Ukraine's position decides everything. Erdogan's message sends a strong signal to the world. Turkey supports a peace plan only if Ukraine is protected. Ukraine holds the keys. Zelensky rushes into talks. Trump peace plan to be discussed next week. A political earthquake is coming. Sky News report that Vladimir Zelensky will discuss the Trump peace plan, or rather the Witkoff-Dmitriev plan, with Donald Trump as early as next week. The urgency is real. Just hours before, Zelensky held emergency call with Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz, and Merz even cleared his entire schedule for the conversation. What's inside this secret plan? Why is everyone suddenly moving at lightning speed? And will Ukraine be forced into a deal writing behind its back?
Volodymyr Zelensky will discuss Trump's peace plan, or rather the Witkoff-Dmitriev plan, with Donald Trump as early as next week, according to Sky News. The day before, the Ukrainian president held an urgent phone conversation with Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron and Friedrich Merz. According to media reports, the latter even rearranged his entire schedule for this call. But after the consultation, Zelensky posted a brief summary online.
We are working on the document prepared by the American side. It should be a plan that ensures a real and honorable peace. There is close coordination to ensure that the key positions are accepted, the next steps have been coordinated, and it was agreed that the team at certain levels will work together.
Meanwhile, Bloomberg reported that the EU and therefore Ukraine are rejecting key points of the US-Russian plan. Supposedly, European leaders believe that reducing the army is absurd. Also, the actual front line, not Russia's wishes, should serve as the starting point for territorial negotiations. The situation surrounding the so-called peace plan is being rapidly pushed from across the ocean. Allegedly, the US wants a framework agreement to be signed with Zelensky by November 27th, right in time for Thanksgiving. Otherwise, as insiders report, the Americans will stop sharing intelligence and even halt weapons deliveries that Europeans are buying from America with their own money. The proposals that have been voiced, as experts frankly note, are a plan for capitulation. And the fate of thousands of Ukrainians, like a turkey, is being prepared to be laid out on the holiday table.
This is total capitulation. It reminds me of the 18th century, Catherine the Great, the registered Cossacks, the reduction of the army, the reduction of armaments, the reduction of range, or rather, the abandonment of long-range weapons. In other words, they're taking us back to the times before the full-scale invasion. And on top of that, they're imposing a huge number of restrictions on us, many of which we don't even know about yet because there are a lot of behind-the-scenes clauses. With such restrictions, they could simply bring Yanukovych back and say, accept him in the political sphere, let him run for office, because you are a democratic country. You must push issues like the Russian language, the church, and everything else. They want to turn us into slaves and little Russians.
Interestingly, it's not entirely clear who will pay and how much to those affected by the full-scale invasion. The Americans have supposedly agreed with the Russians that $100 billion from Russia's frozen assets will go toward reconstruction, and half of that will go to the United States. Another $100 billion is supposed to be provided by the Europeans, and the rest of the frozen assets will be invested in an American-Russian investment fund for joint projects. But that's not all. Security guarantees. They are being considered for 10 years. And the US has outlined its possible involvement in the event of another attack on Ukraine. In fact, analysts admit this is basically the Budapest Memorandum 2.0.
Back in the day, we gave up nuclear weapons not so that people would now try to string us along. These 36 hours are pure panic. This is an attempt to corner the only democracy at war and to show that democracy is weak, that democracy is for suckers and losers, that democracy doesn't matter. The only things that matter are cash, killing, and money. And then, on top of that, all of it gets forgiven. Let's see how this will be recorded on the pages of history and whether it will be possible to build coalitions around this later, defending one's leadership.
Meanwhile, the White House press secretary stated that the head of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council supported most of the 28 points, to which Rustem Umerov posted a rebuttal on social media. He writes that he flew overseas only to organize preparatory meetings for a future dialogue. The Americans, taking advantage of the corruption scandal in Ukraine, are putting enormous pressure on Bankova. Vladimir Zelensky essentially confirmed this in his evening address to the nation the day before.
Ukraine may find itself caught between two risks, either the loss of dignity or the loss of a key partner, or a very difficult 28 points, or a very harsh winter. The most severe risk ahead are a life without freedom, without dignity, and having to trust someone who has already attacked us twice. They will expect an answer from us, although in reality I have already given it.
Amidst all this commotion, they watch from the Kremlin, rubbing their hands together. There, in the best traditions of the KGB machine, they issue contradictory statements and pretend they have nothing to do with it at all.
Secret peace deal in the shadows. Trump and Russia negotiate without Ukraine. A plan without Ukraine, negotiation without Congress. Behind closed doors, Trump's team and Russian officials have drafted a secret 28-point peace plan quietly developed over weeks and now pushed forward without Kyiv's involvement. What's really inside this deal and who is deciding Ukraine's future behind its back?
A plan without Ukraine, negotiations without Congress.
They're already discussing Ukraine, selling it, reselling it, and selling it again.
The Donald Trump administration has given the green light to a peace plan consisting of 28 points. A document that was secretly developed over the past few weeks with representatives of the Russian Federation, but without Ukraine's participation.
The president has made it clear that it is time to stop the killing and reach an agreement to end the war. Trump believes there is a chance to end this senseless war if flexibility is shown, a White House representative stated.
The chief architect of the plan was Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who together with Russian negotiator Kirill Dmitriev met in Miami to discuss the parameters of the future agreement. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner also participated in the development.
The plan focuses on providing both sides with security guarantees to ensure lasting peace. It includes what Ukraine wants and what it needs for a lasting peace, says one of the American officials.
The document itself is still being kept secret, but some of its details have become known to sources. So the 28 points are divided into 4 key sections: peace in Ukraine, security guarantees, security, Europe, and the future of US relations with Russia and Ukraine. And although the White House assures that the plan contains what Ukraine wants and what it needs for lasting peace, the details of the project are raising more and more questions.
All their efforts have reached a dead end, and now they are apparently trying to break through on different fronts.
According to Western media reports, the plan envisions transferring territory in eastern Ukraine to Russia, primarily parts of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions that are currently still under Kyiv's control. In effect, this is an agreement to Russia's demands regarding Donbas, although it would have taken Moscow years to capture these territories by military means. Currently, Ukraine holds about 15% of the region. According to Trump's version, these zones are to become demilitarized, formally under Russian control, but without the deployment of troops. At the same time, the terrorist state is supposedly going to pay rent for administering Donbas. Ukraine formally does not change its borders, but in reality allows Moscow to govern the territory for money. For the Kherson and Zaporizhzhia regions, it is proposed to freeze the front line at its current positions. The details have not yet been disclosed. The plan also restricts the Ukrainian army, reducing its numbers, banning foreign missions, and imposing limitations on weapon systems, including long-range strike capabilities. The document mentions the winding down of American military aid and a ban on the deployment of Western troops on Ukrainian territory after the war ends. In effect, this is a rejection of joining NATO, which Moscow has been pushing for since 2014. In return, Russia promises not to attack Ukraine or other European countries and to formalize this commitment in law.
It seems to me that the administration believes that what has changed is that Zelensky is now facing problems, and Zelensky is politically weakened from the White House's perspective. And perhaps that's why Trump is staying silent and not commenting on this in any way, so as not to, in some way, by criticizing him, not draw more support to Zelensky. I understand that not all criticism will help Zelensky in his popularity, but basically we see that the president is silent and we can just look for different reasons. But from the administration's point of view, they see that there is a scandal in Ukraine. They see that the president of Ukraine might now agree to a deal that he previously would not have agreed to. How much of this is actually true, we don't know, but we see that there is still an attempt by you, Witkoff and Dmitriev, who are trying to merge in their amorous ecstasy and start making money. And the main thing this administration wants and what Russia wants is for people to simply ignore Ukraine, but Ukraine continues to be a thorn in their side.
In addition, Trump's peace plan includes a provision for the recognition of the Russian language and guarantees for the Russian Orthodox Church in Ukraine, a position the Kremlin has been promoting for decades.
This is preparing Ukraine for absorption by the Russian Empire.
Across the ocean, the reaction is mixed. Some senators and congressmen learned about the project from the press. Lindsey Graham emphasized, such a peace is only possible with firm security guarantees for Ukraine. Tom Bacon compared Trump's actions to Munich in 1938, warning that any attempt to appease the aggressor without involving the victim only accelerates new threats. In the US and Europe, it is believed that the plan can be adjusted after consultations with Kyiv, but skeptics are convinced that the proposed framework radically changes the balance of power, increases pressure from Russia, and weakens Ukraine's position. At the same time, the Trump administration insists that the goal of the document is to end the war and achieve long-term peace by using flexibility and negotiation mechanisms instead of military escalation.
That's all for today on Ukraine Today. If you want the truth to stay louder than Kremlin lies, like, comment and subscribe. Your support keeps this channel fighting on the information frontline. Stay strong, stay informed and stay with Ukraine.